Welcome to the latest Hammer Horror in Order, where the definition of exactly what this is right there in the title. We're watching Hammer Horror and Hammer Thrillers in the order in which they were released. And we've worked our way up to 1963. This is the first one from 1963 that we'll be talking about. And there's a handful here because I think it was only like 2 or 3 movies in 1962. For so whatever reason, they didn't have as much horror and thriller output in 62. But in 63, they ramped it back up. And we're talking about Paranoiac, which was released May 15th of 1963. I believe that was in the United States where it was released first, because sometimes their releases would come out in the UK first, and others would come out in the US first for some reason. This one came out in the United States in May 15th, 1963, and then in the UK January 26th of 1964. So it was quite some time before it got released there in the UK. This one stars Janette Scott, Oliver Reed, and Sheila Burrell. Now, Oliver Reed we've seen in a couple, including what was The Curse of the Werewolf?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, and I think most recently, was it Night Creature? Yeah, he was a Night Creature.
He was.
Yeah, he had a smaller role there, but he was a part of Night Creature. So we've seen him a few times. This one was directed by Freddie Francis. Now, this was the first of apparently many that he did for Hammer, including, I think he was one of, if not other than Terrence Fisher, I believe, one of the only guys that directed anything for Hammer that was a Hammer Dracula film and a Hammer Frankenstein film. Other than Fisher, he was the only other guy. But this is the first thing that he did for Hammer. And this is a screenplay by Jimmy Sangster, so that's another familiar name. We've done a ton of Jimmy Sangster stuff throughout the series so far. It was produced by Anthony Hines, which we've done a number of his projects. And this was based loosely on the 1949 crime novel Brat Farrar by Josephine Tay. Now, I was reading something where apparently, like, this took them like 10 years, roughly, to finally get this movie made. They bought the rights to the novel and then went through various versions, and then eventually this is what you get. So, aren't you glad, Donnie, that it took them so long to finally get this as the end product?
Yeah. I mean, no.
I mean, I don't know if any other versions would have been better or worse, but now apparently in the novel, which I've never read, of course, but horse racing played a big part in the novel, and then for just budget reasons, they just said, "No, they dumped all the horse racing stuff." So, but I think overall, it's a pretty simple plot to this movie, where like essentially it's a member of the family that they believe dead comes back, and he's here to claim his inheritance, so to speak. So I mean, that's the simplified version because we don't want to give spoiler. We don't do deep spoilers.
Here we don't. No.
Yeah. So like you have to go over to the podcast, where we take a deeper dive. When we eventually one of these days get around to this movie, maybe not. You never know.
No,
I never say never to anything. I'm just saying, you never know what. You spin the wheel.
No, there's no wheel on that. Nah, I don't see us doing it.
You know what? I'm gonna pick it. If I get an older movie, I'm gonna pick it now because you did that. I mean, like, this is one of the, and we've talked about this before with a couple other past Hammer titles, where it's like, it's fine for what it is, but once you've watched it and you've seen the twists, you never really need to watch it again. Right?
Yeah, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've
like The Sixth Sense or something like.
Yeah.
And we're not going to think what happens, but there's a huge twist, and then once that happens, and once you've seen that, like, well, you're not going to go back and immediately watch it again because you already know what the damn twist is, So. Maybe you go back one more time to like, well, maybe there was something I missed or something like that. But that's about the extent of it. You're rarely ever going to go back and, like, I really enjoyed that. Let's watch it again. I think Oliver Reed does a pretty good job here. I mean, he's hamming it up though. He's really, in the lead. I guess kind of the lead role, right?
I mean, yeah, he's, he drinks heavily in this one, but also how much of that is. Like, is this, I don't want to say this is where his problems start, but, how much of that was the character? Like I said, I haven't read the book. I'm not going to read the book ever. But, like, how much of that was actually the character, or how much of that was actually Oliver Reed's, demons?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that going on in this. Like, there's a lot going on with that dude, that character in this movie, and for very good reasons. To be honest with you, like,
Yeah.
he's clearly off in the head in some horrible ways, and that's probably about the only medicine he's got, right? For various reasons. We don't want to tell you exactly what's going on, but there's some weird stuff about this movie with, like, there's hints of incest.
Hints.
Well, I'm not going to say that it's outright. For a moment, without giving anything away, it's tough. But there's at least two moments here where you're like, "Whoa, what are we doing here?"
Well, you've got
pull back.
Yeah, and I mean, it's just a big kind of a mess as far as, like, their family dynamics.
It's a weird dynamic between, like, brother and sister. Then there's a weird dynamic between nephew and aunt. Like, there's some weird, like, under the surface.
Yeah. Like, I guess British banjos?
Yeah. It's like it's there, but we're not going to go all the way, So, and I do believe, I'm thinking that there might have been two different cuts of this movie, because I think I saw one that was a little bit longer. The one that I saw, and I think this is, I guess, the U.S. version, I guess, it was only an hour and 20, so it's pretty tight.
Yeah.
It doesn't drag too much, But I think there's a slightly longer version out.
The one I watched was on Tubi.
I forget where I watched this, to be honest with you. Somewhere on the World Wide Web. I don't remember where. Mine was only
to say it out.
Yeah, the information superhighway.
Oh, there you go.
It was an hour 20, so, like, I felt like, it never really drags, but I thought it was interesting that they had Janette Scott in here because the aunt, because she's probably best known for being in The Day of the Triffids and No Highway in the Sky and stuff like that. But The Day of the Triffids is kind of one of those cult classic type of sci-fi thriller horror type movies. So I think that's really where, and that was around the same time too. So and I think overall, though, the cast is pretty good in this, and the story is interesting enough. The pacing is good enough, but, like, I wouldn't necessarily say this is top tier Hammer either, right? I mean, it is what it is. What was the one that we watched not long ago? Because, like, there's the whole gaslighting thing. This is clearly like a thing in these damn movies. Every other Hammer movie of this time period has got something to do with gaslighting. Taste of Fear, aka Scream of Fear, was very similar to this. Or no, I know another one. Stop Me Before I Kill, or The Fourth. That one was very similar.
Yeah.
Very.
Yeah. Plus, Simon can't drive for shit.
Yeah.
He runs over, like, I guess they've got this little island, or what? Not really an island, but like a shrubbery or whatever. He just runs right over it, hits one of the lawn statues, and then runs right back over the same thing he just ran over.
Well, you mentioned it a few minutes ago. He is a drunk, so that explains that.
Yeah, I guess so.
But he can play a mean organ.
Yeah.
It's interesting. There's a couple of different plot twists in here that I think in a lot of ways you see coming, and then in other ones you don't until you're right there. So, like, it's an interesting little flick, but I wouldn't necessarily highly recommend it, but, like, maybe for one viewing for sure. After that,
yeah. But
viewing thing.
I guess kind of where do we land on our rating? Because we didn't talk about this beforehand.
No, and we give 0 through 5 hammers.
I don't know if I can. I know, yeah.
It's not 5 hammers. It's not.
No.
Honestly, this isn't even like. I think the debate for me, the dividing line would be 3 or below.
Oh, it's 3. It's definitely below 3 for me.
Yeah, 3 is like, you're getting up toward the upper tier of the ones that we have rated so far, and then it's kind of like 2 3/4, 2.5, so to speak. So
yeah, I had sent you a rating, and I think I'm even below that. But, like, what are we like? So,
for instance, say a 2.5 is something like the Quatermass Experiment or the Snorkel or Hell is a City.
Oh no, it's below that for me.
X the Unknown was 2.25. So
I like that better than I do this one.
So then you got there's 2 movies that we rated 2 hammers, which is Stop Me Before I Kill and The Phantom of the Opera. So I think it's
right around there.
Yeah, I think 2 is probably fair.
Yeah.
Just compared to the other ones and
yeah,
rewatchability, blah blah blah. So yeah, 2 hammers. So we don't necessarily highly recommend it, but here we go again with this same theme of like, so far there hasn't been anything that you could call bad. You know what I mean? Like the worst one, or quote unquote, the worst one that we've watched was The Stranglers of Bombay, and even that wasn't horrible.
No, it wasn't.
The standard that we like with these hammer flicks, but none of them have been like, diarrhea or anything like that. Nothing's horrible. It's just some are better than others. So it's I think so far. What is this number 24? This is the 20 hammer. Yeah. So I think it's fair to say this is bottom tier.
Yeah.
24 movies in. But, I think it's worth a watch once, but you'll never watch it again. That'd be my call.
Yeah.
So we'll leave it there. Next month, we're staying on the IAC, the Paranoiac. This one is the movies that end with IAC, Maniac, which was released in May of 1963 as well. That one debuted in the UK versus this one in the US, but they were only released 5 days apart, just overseas, right? So that one, once again, no Christopher Lee, no Peter Cushing or anything like that. It's directed by Michael Carreras and stars Kerwin Matthews, Nadia Gray, and Donald Houston. So another interesting pull. And by the way, this is another thriller. Because I think technically horror is kind of in the description of some of these movies, but these lean more towards thrillers by our standards. So another one next month. So for Tiana and the Professor Smoke, who couldn't be with us this month, and Donnie, I'm Josh. Go check out aaspookshow.com for all the latest episodes of the All American Spook Show podcast, which you can get new episodes of every Monday at 6 p.m. East. And of course, stick around here to the YouTube channel, like, subscribe, all that jazz. And every month, not only will you get Hammer, Horror, and Order, but you also get Grindhouse, Gutter, Video Vortex, and lots of other cool stuff. So we'll talk to you next month.
See you.